Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar, Preparing for Promotion, Recognising Readiness and Taking the Next Steps. This is part two of a three-part series of webinars, which we're bringing as part of the Leaders of the Future Academy, focusing on securing recruitment, applying for jobs, scoping your CVs. Today we're joined by two guest speakers who are going to present for you today, two experts in the field. We've got Matt Reed and Shona Burnett. Matt's going to be going for a presentation with you today, and then at the end of this we'll have some time for Q&A, so you can either raise your hands for Q&A or you can drop questions into the chat and we'll try and answer all of your questions. Just to make everybody aware, the session is being recorded. We'll also be running a transcript for the session. So after the event, we'll send you around a follow-up email. You'll have a link to a YouTube channel where you'll be able to access last week's webinar as well as this webinar. And yeah, we hope everybody very much enjoys today's session and you find it highly informative. So on that note, I'll pass you over first to yourself, Matt, for a quick intro.
Brilliant, Joe. Thanks so much. So, guys, I'll start sharing my screen now. So this will be the most nerve-wracking thing I do all week. Hopefully all the tech works perfectly with this. So there we are. Always feel like the teacher at school who couldn't work the video at moments like this. Joe, has that started sharing?
Let me just double check. Which is yes, we've got your screen there.
Fantastic, brilliant. So, as Joe said, today's session is about preparing for promotion, and crucially leading into that, can we recognise readiness for it in terms of taking the next step of that as well? Just a little bit of an intro for myself. So I am currently a grade 7 HRBP for DWP, and I partner senior civil servants in Synergy, Jobs and Career Service, Scottish Devolution, Working Age Services and Transforming Banking. So those 5 roles keep me out of and get me into quite a lot of trouble as I go along my working week. I love being a HRBP, just that thing about you never know what's going to come one day to the next. That thing of building relationships with people. SCSs are fascinating to work with, learning from them in terms of, how they've progressed so far in their career. And a great thing with that, the SCSs I work with are kind of pretty much every personality type, every skill set you can think. I'll come on to this later, but just the first message might be, promotion is available to everyone. The notion that you have to be X or you have to be Y, that's not really true, as I found. So I will move to the next slide. Brilliant. I've mastered a bit of the technology there. So here are some of the reasons you might be considering promotion. So everyone you joined with in your cadre, they've all got promoted, so I should. Well, my partner or family, they're kind of nagging me that I should get promoted. Just that feeling of it's about time I was getting promoted. And we always need more money, don't we? That's always nice. Or we might just think, well, I should be thinking about getting promoted. Or someone you kind of don't respect, like professionally, they've got promoted, so you think you should too. So they are absolutely reasons people might think of promotion, but there's only one that counts. You should be thinking about promotion. This should be the absolute litmus test, because you now have the skills, experience and temperament to give the next grade a good go. In the knowledge, you'll more than likely do a good job. Now, here's the thing. We cannot ever predict how we will go in the next grade. And of course, a HEO job, SEO 7-6 job is not the same everywhere you go. If you're a grade 7 in a very operational area, such as where I've worked a lot, where Shona works, you are a really big figure who kind of like dozens and dozens of people know. If you're a grade 7 in a policy area, you're just another grade 7 brutally with that. So, always worth thinking about that. And I think that, skills and experience we get, but that temperament as well. And again, I'll come on to this a bit more later, but so often it's just that thing about, can you be the person who is calm, who doesn't overreact, who sees a way through, etc. Absolutely crucial in being able to make a success of the next grade up. So Top tips, everyone, on how to self-sabotage your promotion attempts. Now, clearly, you all have detected I'm being tongue-in-cheek here. I absolutely am. It's really worth unpacking these things. So, thinking you deserve it doesn't help. It is kind of a waste of energy with that, because whether you get promoted or not is based on what have I done in my working life, and how well can I articulate that on a personal statement at interview. Deserving it, much like wanting it, second point, they kind of don't really count. That's not the important thing. You could really want promotion, but if you don't have the skills, experience, and temperament, you shouldn't get that. And equally often, we all know CS jobs has its quirks. And by the way, I haven't heard of an industry which doesn't have its recruitment quirks or doesn't have things which people could perceive as being unfair. So that thing of saying, but I'm really good at my job, very often that's true. I shouldn't have to tell them what I've done. That is a complete waste of mental energy. Realistically, the system isn't going to change. We are going to ask you to tell us what you've done. And it's kind of like that's one of the prices you pay. If you do want to progress, you've got to make your peace with that. And the thing about point four, the system is weird. Yeah, I kind of agree. And there's probably someone already lined up for it. Now, I know this as a HRBP, and I've done like non-HR roles. I joined the civil service in about 2009, so I've worked lots of different areas. Many cultures around the world have folklore. There's Viking lore, there's Native Indigenous American folklore, Inuit folklore. Every single culture has its own folklore. There's no mythology though quite as broad as the mythology we build up around civil service recruitment. That thing of there's no point applying because somebody's already lined up for it. I have seen every permutation here of, say, somebody's on TDA in a role and gets the job, then somebody doesn't get the job in that same position. I've seen rank outsiders in terms of external people or people who nobody thought would get a job actually get it. So that thing of assuming, yeah, I'm on TDA, this is easy for me, I can just go through motions, that complacency is incredibly dangerous. Talking yourself out of going for it because you assume somebody else will get it, I've seen that dozens of times not happen. So if you're persuading yourself not to go for something or not to go for something as hard as you can, you're really, really doing yourself a disservice with that. And similarly as well, I don't promote people like me. I don't know if people ever saw John Reed a couple of years ago, did a brilliant bit on self-limiting beliefs with this network. And again, it's so often the case that I've had these conversations with people where it's like, I've never been promoted. I've never even got an interview. Oh, that's bad. How many jobs have you applied for? I've applied for one in the last 5 years. Well, kind of that's why you haven't been promoted. And, not getting sifted from one application, that's quite a normal thing as well. And I'll give you an example of this. So the civil service fast stream, fantastic thing to get on if people can. Most of the people on there are fairly young, say like 22 to 25, just left uni, that sort of generation. I work with a fast streamer here in Atlantic Quay in Glasgow who is about my age, in her mid-40s. She's been a teacher all her career and then has joined the fast stream. If she'd have said, oh, they won't want me with all my different industry experience, or they won't want me at my age, she probably wouldn't have applied. She didn't know those cliches. She applied and got it, is now on the fast stream and has a great civil service career, likely to be in her future with that. So absolutely getting in your own way, getting in your own head, in persuading yourself there's no point applying, that is probably the most dangerous and self-sabotaging thing you can do. So although the slide is titled Top Tips on How to Self-Sabotage, the lesson is how not to self-sabotage. So here's the thing as well. Now, isn't it great that to get that really nice dopamine and ego hit when people tell us we're great and, oh, you should easily be doing that job. You can absolutely do it. And the classic people in our lives who would tell us these things, naturally friends, family partners, people we might know a little bit in the local pub, the gym, people we chat to at the bus stop or train station, etc. It's really nice to hear positive things from them. But realistically, our friends, family partners, people we know in our local area, honestly, they do not know if we're capable of doing the next grade up or not, because they don't see our working performance on a day to day, the skills we have, the behaviors we have, the experience we have, the temperament we show. They simply don't know, because we are different people with friends, family partners, the gym, the local pub, as we are in the workplace. Realistically, as well, unless they are well versed in civil service recruitment and very experienced, their industry will be different. They may be at a completely different level to you. They will not know. However, people who may know, and crucially, who may be there to give you that critical analysis, and if you're ready for promotion, or line managers, they will really, really know in terms of, this is what I'm looking for from you, etc. This is what you would need to do. Similarly, now I get it, it's a thing. People don't always get on brilliantly with their line manager. Many of us will work very distantly in terms of geography from our line managers today. So it is getting harder for line managers to give you that accurate sort of judgment. But again, senior leaders, and this is the thing, how often do people say, do people approach someone senior and say, can you tell me, what are you looking for in the grade I'm interested in? What are the skills? And crucially, am I there or not? There is a thing for me in my career. So I'm a grade 7 now. I started out as an AO. I have become an expert in the grade in a grade just after I've left it, because now I'm probably line managing somebody in that grade, and now I have a really clear idea on what's good, bad, and average in terms of the performance at AO, EO, HO level, etc. It's kind of that tragedy that we don't know what a perfect person in that grade would be until it's too late, and we've left it from there as well. Mentors and spot mentors can be really, really good. So this network offers a lot of spot mentoring opportunities. Absolutely would encourage people to get involved with things like that. And again, mentors like that as well. So it is quite common that you would approach a mentor and they would be, say they were too busy, say they had too many mentors at the moment, etc. That's absolutely fine. They have a right to say that. Don't take that personally. Find someone else who will be a really good mentor for you. There's no hard and fast rule here. I would say somebody probably 2 grades above you has that distance from you, has that ability to say, that's what I'm looking for in the grade above which you're looking at. And crucially, just that distance is really, really important as well. If there's ever occasions where you think, I haven't done that brilliantly, something didn't go well, or if you're preparing for something big ticket, that outside of you can be so, so useful for that. Similarly, critical friends as well. So, we are in an era now where people really fear kind of having that negative conversation with people, even in like elite sport. That's getting harder and harder to give that really robust critical feedback to people there. So actually, anyone who can be that critical friend who says to you, do you know what? Your behaviors at the moment aren't quite there. You don't have that calmness. You don't de escalate things. You get a bit too emotionally involved in things. Incredibly valuable feedback to have. And similarly, sponsors as well. So a bit like a mentee, a mentor, but a sponsor is there to just really try and like boost your profile rounded about as well. Again, with that, I'd be looking at somebody sort of senior with that. And I remember with that as well. So when I got promoted from HO to SEO, the line manager I'd had was a grade 7, so 2 grades above me. So we were having a one-to-one ahead of me getting promoted to SEO, and he was like, right, Matt, as a HEO, you can get away with being a bit sloppy on those returns. You can get away with occasionally, like how you speak, like, sort of, it's not always the most professional way. As an SEO, though, you're going to be held to a higher standard. You need to be able, the book will stop with you in terms of, where's that return, Matt? That was your job to do it as the SEO. And that was incredibly valuable to me because that really got me in that headspace of this is how your worldview needs to change going forward, largely about the responsibility which you have as well. But again, the people we've got who will be honest with us, when you found someone like that, cling on to them because it's probably one of the greatest workplace gifts you will find. So, a few boxes here. Now, again, this is not a hard and fast rule. Some of these I've sort of slightly touched on before, but some really good, like ready reckoners, which I like to use with mentees, etc., would be: do you bring heat or light to a challenging situation? I've had this recently in terms of so recruitment in the areas I work in, can be really interesting. So lots of stakeholders involved with that. So with that, it's a case of if you ever disagree with someone, is it a case of you are desperate to win that argument, and it doesn't matter if you put their nose out of joint because you win? That's you bringing heat. Bringing light to a situation is saying, here is I completely get your point of view, but here's my point of view. Can we compromise going forward? Can we find something really constructive where me and you as stakeholders have to work really well with each other? If you can bring light, not heat, you are in fact displaying the behavior and temperament of someone who probably will get promoted to a more senior grade. Leadership can be a little bit lonely at times. You can be unpopular at times with things. I've made decisions before which my team has disagreed with. That was me considering the bigger strategic picture of what we should do. And yet I was unpopular doing that. Not an easy thing to do. Anyone who says they don't care at all what other people think of them, I never believe it. And actually, you should care what your team think of you because it's essential you get that good working relationship with them. But without a doubt, the higher you go, the more you risk being unpopular. The higher you go as well, by definition, the higher your line manager and countersigning manager goes as well. So therefore, can you manage effectively upwards in terms of, do you understand that if you're in, say, a HR or SEO role, your 7 or 6 is probably thinking really strategically. Can you get your head around that? Can you understand that? And if you've got a challenge to give, can you give it in that way, which is neither aggressive and confrontational nor sycophantic? Can you just really get that message across with that really good, like, critical thinking from yourself? Something which really stuck out to me at an event I did before. Someone said to me, Matt, I can't wait to be a grade 7. It must be amazing that everybody just does what you want them to do all day. Well, I've got really, really bad news for you. That isn't true. I haven't met anybody in any grade, bearing in mind I partner very, very senior colleagues. There simply isn't a job, a grade, a situation where everybody does what you want to do all the time with that. So that thing of being okay with challenge, working through it constructively, you'll always, always need those skills. Probably the higher you get, the more you'll need them as well with that. A really good thing as well, and this is something I've worked on with people, may, in the way that people get frustrated with their line manager in every different industry. So people may get frustrated with the people they lead in every industry as well. Probably. So here's the thing to make your peace with. If you've been promoted ahead of people, that's probably because you've shown more drive, you've got a better portfolio of good things you've done in the workplace. So therefore, if some of those people kind of lack your skill set, lack your drive, lack your sense of responsibility, I get it, that's frustrating, but that's why you are senior to them. So coming to terms with both your own deficiencies, your own imperfections, and other people, really, really important. I've seen this a lot where promotion tends to make people grow or flounder. We never quite know which one will be, but it is really worth thinking about that in terms of, would kind of that extra status like make you grow? As I mentioned at the start, if you're in a very like operational area in DWP, being the 7, you are that kind of like that almost celebrity figure who everybody knows when you walk in a room. Some people would really like that. Some people would hate that because they'd hate being that figure of attention. So really worth thinking about, will that next job make me likely to grow or flounder with that? One of the really interesting experiences I've had in my career. So, as I mentioned, when I got promoted to SEO, I used to work on child maintenance. Then I went to work on ESA, employment and support allowance. And I was managing a team of HEOs who were both older than me, but crucially, much more experienced than me in terms of they'd been working on the detail of ESA for a long time, and I came in brand new. That's kind of a horrible feeling because that thing of, wow, they literally know everything, and I'm desperately trying to catch up with this while being their leader. Kind of an uncomfortable circle to square, that is. But I think with that as well, the leadership and the critical thinking can always be there. And actually, there's a brilliant advantage in being completely new to an area. You know, that classic thing of this may be a silly question, but actually that freshness you have for things like that incredibly valuable because so many times we might have had a mission creep in something. We may be doing something because we've always done it. It seems sensible to us in the bubble, but not someone outside. So you can absolutely bring that fresh pair of eyes to a situation like that. A bit like mentioned before about in some areas you will be a really well-known figure. Being a job title or grade is sometimes what people judge you on ahead of you yourself. People will have an opinion on you already. It's quite an odd situation to realize that sometimes, you know, like I've done things like I did a lot of roadshows when I worked for DWP, the operational network. So I traveled all around Scotland to job centres. I used to go on a lot of all staff calls. Without a doubt, some of the people of the 2,000 people on that call would have gone home and gone, oh, this guy chatted earlier and he was an absolute genius stroke. It was the strangest thing, the most pointless thing I've ever heard. I've no idea which it was. I've over egged it a little bit there. It was probably a little bit of both. Some people will like you, some people won't. But the crucial thing is that job title and grade. Some people will really want to be your friend because you're suddenly that grade. Other people may instantly distrust you, be nervous around you because of that grade. So again, psychologically and emotionally, that's something to come to terms with upon promotion. So stakeholder engagement, stakeholder relationships, you'll see that a lot on job descriptions, especially kind of HEO upwards, pretty much every grade at HEO and above, you'll see that. So the crucial thing there is the stakeholders we work with is kind of like any situation, like school, uni, college, the people on your street. Some of them you'll really like, some of them you'll like, some of them, you know, you're not 100% agreed with on stuff, but actually, when people challenge the ideas you've got, they can be adding tremendous value. If they can see the icebergs ahead, which you can't, they are absolutely worth their weight in gold with that. And linked to that thing of, you know, sifting the professional from the personal, it kind of is true that, you know, as you line manage more and more people, not everybody you line manage would you want to be really friendly with, to spend time outside work with. Sometimes you'll hear about their professional and personal conduct, which you don't approve of yourself, which you wouldn't do yourself. You know, we are in an era now, aren't we, where things like political views are getting increasingly divisive. But here's the thing. You could have someone and it was like, do you know what? Won't be keeping in touch with them when I leave. Not that fussed about them. However, if you're ready to give them everything you've got as their line manager and their leader, you're probably ready for promotion. If you can separate the personal from the professional, that's who we are looking for to progress into those middle and then senior roles for us. And crucially as well, workplace identity changes. So I left DWP as an SEO. I worked on something called the Wish team. So that was a very thought leadership team working on things like what's our approach to well-being, inclusion, bullying and harassment, diversity inclusion, etc. And I was seen as one of those really kind of like bright, bright sort of radical thinkers. I joined DHSC as a grade seven, had a week off, coincidentally turned 40. That's a big milestone, isn't it? Turned 40 in that week. And then all of a sudden, the grade sevens I was working with were much younger than me. DHSC HR was a very, very ex-fast streamer type place. So I'd gone from this like bright radical thinker who sometimes needed to be calmed down a bit to being kind of like the unofficial older brother, wiser, calmer head. I didn't sign up for that, by the way. That's what I was given on me. But crucially, with that, the workplace identity really, really changed at that moment. So as you get promoted, especially if you go to another department or an area you aren't used to, your workplace identity is very, very likely to change. So really worth thinking about in your sort of career progression going forward. And again, this is worth thinking about that real long term. And this is point five here. The best thing a mentor ever said to me was, Matt, don't think about what job are you going to apply for in the next 6 weeks. Think about where do you want to be in 5 years? Grade wise, area wise, what skills, experience, temperament do you need? And then basically how are you going to get yourself there in the next 5 years? So how many different jobs do you need to be doing? Is it one, two, three? Do you need to be doing something radically different? Do you need to cement what you're doing already? But that was one of the greatest bits of advice I've had. And similarly with that, to think, are you someone in the junior roles in the civil service? We probably don't know because we're not required to be a big strategic thinker. But that thing of, like, are you someone who would really enjoy writing a strategy for something, leading something new, thinking new thoughts? Or, and you can be both of these things, you can be none of these things. Are you a critical thinker? In that the first bit might not be your bag, but if someone else writes a strategy, has ideas, you can then be the person who gives really high quality analysis of that in terms of I like that because of that. However, that bit might not work. Or are you aware of the pitfalls we've got with this? We could avoid that if we do that. If you're a critical thinker, kind of the world's your oyster, especially in the civil service, because we always need people who can interrogate ideas, policies, best way to do it, how to avoid problems, programs, projects. We absolutely need people like that as well. Really worth thinking about your personal branding as well. A good rule of thumb with this might be, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? Now, it's a bit of a scary thought, that, isn't it? But, really that thing of, and this links nicely to the next point, are you a thought leader, a people leader, or a systems leader? I'll explain what I mean by that. For myself, I would self-assess as a thought leader. I always have lots of ideas as a HRBP on things like what do we need to do differently on well-being, on EDI, on talent development, on personal development, on our culture, for example. That really, really excites me. And if it was like, Matt, write us a paper on what it will look like in 5 years' time, honestly, I'd be so excited doing that. You might be a people leader in terms of you are someone who just really, really likes that thing of leading lots and lots of people. You're really, really interested in what everybody on your team has to say. Or you could be a systems leader. So that is more about how do we bring together all these different processes. Indeed, we do that a lot. So, for example, our operational networks will often work closely with HMRC. For example, there's lots of moving parts in that thing of customer makes a claim to universal credit and then customer gets paid, customer gets appointments in job centres, for example, lots and lots of moving parts. So you may be someone who is not so much a thought leader, but you can really get your head around the systems bit like that. Now, with these things, it's not like you'll be 100% of one and 0% the other. For myself, though, and subconsciously, I know the order I put it in is what I would say myself is. As I said, I see myself as a thought leader. I am not a systems leader. So in my career, I've kind of, avoided that on purpose. So next slide. So 3 notes of caution. So I did I was in the Middle East in November, and if anyone's travelled up there, the borders are very, very noticeable. They're all wire fences. They're all like sort of guard towers. Guards have guns, etc. A guy who was a border guard on the Jordanian side was in a bit, although the Middle East is obviously in a very, very tense state currently, was in a very kind of like low tension area with that. And he was just having conversations with people as you walked by near his post. With him, realistically, he was doing that because he's extremely bored in his job and he knows the chance of there being any problems in his sector are extremely low. So sometimes a job is like that in terms of we're not getting a lot out of it. Therefore, in terms of promotion, we might have to think, do I need a sideways move, which would really start getting me that experience, the examples I can talk about, etc. There's absolutely no shame in that, in thinking a sidestep first before promotion. Most people who've been promoted have probably done more than one job at one grade. A false witness shall not go unpunished. I was very much in biblical mode with that one. But here's the thing. You might have heard the fact or been suspicious that people might lie on their form. Human behavior is flawed. Every industry is vulnerable to that, especially in the AI era, and every industry is coming to terms with that. What I would say is someone who gets promoted into a job they don't have the skills, experience, temperament for, etc., kind of gets found out really, really quickly. And it's not a pleasant experience to be kind of hapless in a job, to be floundering, to have a team which doesn't respect you. It's kind of really not worth it. So, with that thing of being honest about yourself and your experience on the form, honesty is the best policy with things like that. And crucially as well, being really good at your current job often really feels like, yep, I'm ready for promotion now. They're not quite the same things though. So I was a HRBP in the Scotland Job Centre network till recently. So with that, you could be amazing at dealing with claimants, at, like really dealing well with them, getting to understand their situation. Doesn't necessarily mean you'd be good as a work coach team leader, where you have to organize a team of work coaches, you have to coach them, etc. The next step up again, you're much more strategic, linking together certain sites. So the skill set changes every time with the grade with that. So really worth thinking about. It's not just that my responsibilities got bigger, but the skill set has changed as well. And that is far too much for me talking. Shona, can I bring you in now for a little bit of your reflections on your career?
You certainly can, Matt. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So my name's Shona. I'm the customer service leader for Fife Job Centres, working within DWP, leading 7 job centres within Fife in North East Scotland. So I've recently been promoted to SEO from HEO, and I kind of knew I was ready to step up from HEO to SEO grade when I recognised that I was consistently performing at my highest level within that grade. And I was naturally seeking opportunities to broaden my impact. My PDP clearly reflected a direction of travel towards progression, and I really gained energy from working across different job centres and departments, sharing my ideas, helping others implement improvements, and actually seeing those positive outcomes. And that wider reach gave me a genuine sense of achievement and really sparked that desire to contribute at a more strategic level. So in the past, I would say my main barrier for me had been my own confidence. So Matt mentioned earlier about being the best you can in that role, etc. I'm the type of person who doesn't usually feel ready for the next step until I feel completely comfortable and excelling in that current role. But over time, as I received that consistent feedback, developed those new strengths and saw the value that I was bringing, I actually began to realise that readiness is also about recognising your own potential and not just waiting until everything feels perfect and it's the right time. A huge part of that shift came from the support that was around me. So Matt again mentioned the senior leadership team, etc., and they were incredibly encouraging. And seeing the rapid progression of my now grade 7 had a really big impact on me too. We'd previously worked together side by side as HEOs, and watching him progress so quickly, so confidently, and so effectively actually really inspired me as well. His journey made the step feel achievable for me and showed me what was possible with the right mindset and that commitment. And above all, he offered honest advice, challenged me, and consistently encouraged me to reach my full potential as well. In addition to that, Matt spoke about mentors earlier too. So Matt, for me, his support was invaluable. He invested a great deal of time in coaching me and mentoring me, helping me to understand not just the expectations of the SEO role, but the requirements of the recruitment process itself. He made sure I was fully prepared for the application stages, the assessment centre, and his guidance really gave me that clarity, structure, and the confidence to approach the process with purpose. Understanding the mechanics of the recruitment journey was a real big one for me, and he showed me what success genuinely looked like, and that was a key part of feeling ready to take that next step forward. Before actually applying, I undertook the role that I'm in just now on a TDA, so a temporary position to SEO, and this experience for me was really pivotal. It allowed me to shape my activities in a way that showcased my own strengths, leadership behaviours, and my capability at that higher grade. And it gave me the space to be, I'm going to use the word selfish, but in the right way, because it let me focus on the work that provided the strongest evidence for the interview and demonstrated my potential in a real world setting. And experience the grade firsthand reinforced that I could not only meet my own expectations, but actually thrive in the role as well. And ultimately, my readiness came from a combination of instinct, evidence of my performance, the inspiration of others who'd progressed, and that genuine support and mentorship I received from leaders like Matt. And all of this alongside the TDA experience helped me realise that I wasn't just capable of stepping up, I was prepared and motivated to make a bigger impact at the SEO level. Thanks, Matt.
Schoolboy error. I'd gone on mute, Shona. You know I hate talking. So, Shona, thanks so much for that. Really, really good insights there. Joe, Keir, etc. And any comments in via chat for us or questions, etc.?
Yeah, so first off, thank you both to Matt and Shona. That's really, really highly informative content there. Thank you for sharing the pearls of your wisdom, which you've developed through your years with the civil service. I'm sure your experiences will have been really, really informative and beneficial to everybody that's joined today. So to move on to some questions we've received into the room, Stephen has been in the chat. Stephen says, good point he's made here. Just thinking out loud, my issue is that I rarely reach the feeling that I have the skills, experience, or temperament to be promoted due to a lack of self-confidence. It's something I really hope I can overcome and make a fair assessment of my skills. So not so much a question, but more just a statement of how Stephen's feeling. Matt or Shona, I wonder if you have any reflections on how Stephen might be able to develop around those points.
I'll come in first, Matt, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I did mention when I spoke you through my kind of journey there that confidence was a big thing for me and actually believing in myself. But I think what, for me, pushing those boundaries. So, for example, if you're asked to do something that you don't feel comfortable with, actually going ahead and just putting yourself out there, just to broaden that experience that you've got. And actually, once you've done things 1, 2, 3 times, you become quite good at it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sharon. And I think the thing for me, sometimes well-meaning people will say to us, "Oh, don't be nervous, be confident." And it's like you might as well say to someone, "Oh, don't be 5'10." Don't look like that. It's it's an emotion, isn't it? We can't always control our emotions with that. I think Shona's spot on though with the fact that kind of like the only way to grow is to just kind of like to push that comfort zone a little bit at a time with things. And I think crucially as well, have that sort of philosophy as well, that if things ever don't go brilliantly, so say, public speaking is something which lots of people fear. Say you did something and you blanked a bit, you stammered a lot with it. Actually, that's all okay. And if you can have that philosophy of, do you know what? I've tried, I didn't master it 100% on my first go, but that's okay. I'm much further along than I used to be with that. As Shona said, doing something 2 or 3 times is usually better than the first. I mean, thinking about, like, are any of us ready to pass our driving test and be on the road safely after one driving lesson? Absolutely not. Would having one lesson in a foreign language make us fluent in that language? Absolutely not. It is just that bit of, eating away the comfort zone and actually doing it a little bit at a time. That is like a really effective way of sort of doing it, I think. So looking for that bit of, not something which will absolutely petrify you and which you'd pull out of on the day, but actually what is something which I don't usually get to do, which does actually make me feel a little bit nervous. If you can like pivot yourself towards that, your confidence should grow.
Thank you both very much. So we've got a couple more questions coming on the chat there. One from Elizabeth. Elizabeth asks, how do you deal with conflicting views of your application? Some may agree it gets for a sift and others don't. This is hugely frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, that is unfortunately one of the issues we have, which is that, sort of like it there is always an element of subjectivity to something. Some people really like how something is written, some people don't. So I think with that, it's just about thinking sort of like, and having too much advice can be a real problem, without a doubt. It's the same as having not enough. So I think with that, maybe just really concentrate on a smaller amount of advice and thinking like, does this work for me? And as well, and again, this is really frustrating if your dream job goes by you in that time, but kind of that thing of you can never really judge from one thing whether you've been successful or not with it. If it's like, certain examples you've got how you're writing it, I think you've got to give it kind of like 2 or 3 applications. And then if you're constantly not being sifted, scoring below, then fair enough, that's the time to change with that. Again, it's just kind of like, and friends in many different industries as well, say this, that feeling is always there, that you're never quite sure, what something is. I mean, what I would say is, there is usually a contact on CS Jobs of someone you can email. Most candidates don't do that, but just saying, can we have even a 15-minute chat can be really, really useful in saying to the person, my writing style is like that. Would that be useful? Would you look for one block of stuff? Would you look for like lots of smaller paragraphs, etc.? Any intel like that you can gain from the people can be really, really useful as well. But again, most people simply don't do that.
Thanks very much, Matt. Sean, is there anything you'd like to add to that one?
No, I don't have anything to add to that one, Joe. Thanks.
Very comprehensive answer there.
It was indeed, yep.
So we've got another question coming from Kelly. So she's asking for any possible advice you could give on a situation. And a situation is, you feel you're ready to move on, but confidence is an issue, and you feel that your current role isn't allowing you to demonstrate your capabilities due to the nature of the work you do and the current structure of your team.
I'll come in first, Matt, if you don't mind. So I think obviously we mentioned the confidence thing earlier about trying to push those boundaries. And I don't know if you remember from when I was speaking, I'd mentioned about kind of being selfish when I was in the TD role and actually seeking out those opportunities that were actually going to benefit me and support me towards growing and getting better and preparing for that interview stage. So if you're looking to go up to that next grade, identify what skills you think are missing, what things you need to work on, and actually go out and seek those opportunities and things that might support that to help you move forward.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sharon. And I think kind of for me as well, one of the things I've reflected on as I've progressed going forward is that so things like talent is my really big passion. That's why I love getting involved in things like this. One of the great kind of joys for me of being a grade 7 is I've been able to run talent schemes, and that's been a really, really rewarding thing for me. In looking back, I could have done that as an EO. Now, I wouldn't have had the experience to give to people, but I could have had the idea and co-opted in other people around that. But as an EO, I was like, well, no one's going to listen to me about, talent scheme ideas I've got. I might have been surprised actually, but you know, a good idea is a good idea. And also as well, there's always lots of things above and beyond our day job which we can get involved with. So there'll often be things like conferences we could help get involved with, even virtual ones, other things like this network which people could get involved with volunteering in the behind the scenes organization. Things like the people survey is always a big thing every year. You know, that thing of, are you the person to take forward locally? What are we going to learn from our people survey? How are we going to do new things, etc. I think we'd be surprised that there are often more things out there. And just asking someone really senior for a career chat, or saying, I really want to do something new, even for 2 hours one day, you know, just that thing of asking. And I'm a big believer that if you ask if you ask 10 people for a development opportunity, 9 of them don't get back to you, but one person does and gives you something, that's a massive win, because you'll learn a lot from that.
It's all part of the learning experience, absolutely. Thank you very much to you both. We've another question in the Q&A, which is about mentors. Obviously, you've both been really involved in that space. How do we go about seeking a mentor within the workplace? If we have a good working relationship with the line manager, should we ask them as a potential starting point on who to select or approach?
I can come in. Yeah, that's fine. So my experience of having a mentor is having somebody that's out with your direct line management train. And as Matt mentioned earlier, a couple of grades up. So there is, for DWP, I don't know about the other areas, something called Mentor Match, where you can actually go in and list what it is you're looking for a mentor, and what support you need, and they can match up with somebody who is able to provide that for you. So really good service to use.
Yeah. And I think with that as well, a crucial thing will be, so it's kind of that thing of, you know, even if you don't know a lot of people yourself, it's sort of like the combined network of everybody you know will be massive. So, you know, even if your line manager doesn't know someone, they can ask around in their network and find someone. I think a crucial thing as well is thinking about, what sort of mentor do I want? So, for example, if you're like a really high energy, excitable person, thinking of myself here, it might be that thing of, do I want a mentor who has a similar personality to me, but is 2 grades higher, but has just calm themselves down and is able to have that credibility as a strong figure, as a critical thinker, etc.? Or do you go for the exact opposite of yourself so you can learn lots of things from them? And I think kind of like the extrovert introvert thing is something I'm really interested in. I always poll as a very strong extrovert with that. I love running ideas by really introverted colleagues, because they have that ability to take something away and reflect with a really acute critical thinking, which I don't have that as much as they do. So if I said that, you know, oh, something I didn't go brilliantly, an introvert might be able to tell me, well, Matt, that's why that approach turned off every introvert within the first 2 minutes. Or, you know, conversely, when you're planning for something, it's like, if I walked in a room and did that, you know, a big mistake I often made was, I would, because my brain's always fizzing with ideas, I'd have something and I'd say to my team, right, team, what do we think? And they'd often be kind of like a bit like disorientated by the fact of like, oh, Matt, this is like a massive pivot and change of direction. We kind of need time to think about it. Me as an extrovert, I was like, oh, I'll give you an opinion with a second's notice. Not everybody is like that. And indeed, you miss out on a lot of that really valuable critical thinking if you don't give people that time and space to reflect and digest something.
Yeah. Another thing I would add to that as well, when you first get your mentor, make sure you do it in plenty of time. So I was preparing to apply for the SEO grade 6 months before the job I would like to apply for went live, right? You don't want to be going to somebody a month before saying, I've got this application to make, because they might not have that time to be able to give you. So you need to show them that grace and make sure that they have that commitment to you and are able to give you that time. And second to that as well, a good mentor will actually say to you, how do you want your feedback delivered? When I first started working with Matt, he said, how do you prefer it? And I said, straight to the point, don't sugarcoat it, tell me as it is. And if that works for you, great. But I think you need to have that really honest conversation with whoever you get to be your mentor, so you don't end up in a place where it's not working for you.
Yeah. And I think as well, like sort of just being really honest as well, in that sometimes people see mentoring as just about a grade and a progression. Mentoring potentially gives a lot more than that. But I've had people before say to me, like, you know, Matt, all I want is my HEO. I'm desperate to get to HEO. Can you help me? I've been really happy to help them with that. And then when they've got their HEO and the mentoring thing has kind of fizzled out, that's absolutely fine. They were really honest from the start that they just wanted the grade and not anything else after that. You know, I can absolutely live with that. If I've been useful to them in really getting them what they wanted, then I'm really pleased.
Thank you both very much. I'll go on to the next question from Michaela. This is maybe partly related. Any advice on how to seek leadership experience if you're struggling to find this in your role in your team, despite asking your line manager?
Shona, do you want me to take this or you? Okay.
I can come for a bit.
Sorry, Shona, go on.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Thinking about leadership experience, so you don't need to be a management grade to be a leader. Being a leader is about your influence, your persuasion, and how you really interact with people. So you can be part of a team that are all the same grade, but you can choose to act differently and actually lead by example and lead that team forward. Don't know if you want to come in with what you're going to say, Matt.
Yeah, and I think as well, so obviously mentoring's been a big thing of today. Reverse mentoring is a thing as well, where you give advice to people, sometimes much senior to yourself, that can be incredibly valuable in terms of, because, you know, one of the challenges we have in the civil service, again, every industry is like this, but is that, you know, the way the perm sec sees the department and the business is quite different, understandably, to how an AO processing benefit claim sees it. You know, there'd be something wrong if we didn't have a different perspective like that. But that thing of just, you know, really helping senior leaders who might have to write out or do a verbal or virtual presentation to someone, you know, the ability to say, can I be your reverse mentor? Could I actually look at something beforehand and say, just that the very corporate way you're phrasing it just turns off lots of people, or, you know, the fact that the timings here will really stress people out. There is absolutely a role in things like that. As Shona said, grade and leadership are not the same thing. You can be a really great leader without being of a senior grade. Lots of development programs outside as well. So for anyone from DWP who's dialing in from AA to SEO, summer school is open at the moment. The most phenomenal development thing, probably in the civil service, which we have. I'm biased, but other departments will have a similar thing like that as well. Probably on everyone's intranet, there'll be a page under something like talent, development, leadership, etc. Well, there'll often be things which, you know, it's very easy you might have missed. We all get lots and lots of emails all day. We all get diary clashes, etc. And, you know, I think just that thing of asking people, is there anything I can get involved with stuff? I know I mentioned it 5 minutes ago, but it kind of doesn't matter how many people say no. It's the people who say yes, that might unlock a door for you. It might unlock a new skill. That's the important thing.
Thank you both very much. So we've got 4 minutes left, maybe time for a couple more questions, and then you guys can have a nice cup of tea and rest your voices. Thank you very much for handling these questions so quick fire. I know it might feel slightly like being put on the spot, but the answers have been really informative. So one here from Annabelle Cooper. How would you suggest we figure out if we're a thought leader, a people leader, or a systems leader? What questions did you ask yourself? Or ask others who you know?
Sharon, shall I take this one? So I think it's just kind of really thinking about sort of what excites me in the workplace. Is it about that? It's a really cliched phrase, but I can't think of a better one. But that blue sky thinking. is it that thing of blank piece of paper now, almost like we'll leave you alone for 2 months, come back to us thinking beautiful thoughts? That would really excite me, by the way. So if anyone ever hears of a job like that, give me a call, right? But it's that thing of, does that really excite you? Does the thought of bringing together lots and lots of different areas in terms of how do we get an improvement here, the fact that, you know, that claims are coming in there but not being processed, everything's breaking down there. Do you have that kind of analytical mind which would really enjoy seeing a problem and maybe being actually what's presenting as the problem isn't, it's 2 stages back is where things are breaking down, and fixing that. You know, that would indicate you'd probably be a systems leader, or just that thing of, right, there's a team here, it's a high performing team at the moment. Am I the person though to get engagement up another couple of percent, to get performance up another couple of percent? If you're thinking that, you'll probably be a people leader, or indeed, you know, it might be a team which isn't performing well, but if you're excited by that thought of, I'm the person who's going to come in, there's a team here which, you know, might have had some instability with it, might be a bit disengaged. I'm the person who's going to come in, inject energy, listen to people, understand people, and drive a team forward. You will be a people leader. So that's a bit of a crash course, but like hopefully that's been useful.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe time for one
Yep.
short last question, and then we'll wrap up. So this one's from Mila. She said, most grades above me require some sort of team management experience. How do I go about acquiring those skills if there's no grades below mine?
Shona, do you want me to take this or you?
You go for it, Matt. Thanks.
So I think with that, there's always things you can do, like, you know, volunteering to, can I take the meeting today? Can I chair a meeting? So, for example, in job centres, we have a comms hour from Wednesday 9 to 10. Usually, we would expect HEOs and SEOs to do that. But if an AO or an EO said, you know, can I step up? Can I do something at that? That is leadership. If it's things like, can I be the wellbeing lead, the EDI lead, for the change lead for my site, for my team, that is kind of like team management and leadership experience as well, in terms of thinking, right, as wellbeing lead, am I the person driving it forward? Am I the person getting ideas from other people? When's the best time of day for comms? Do people want a big 3-page Word doc sending out with ideas, or do they just want it short and simple? All those things in terms of thinking, how do I best engage people? How do I best give clarity to people? How do I best get people following me and joining me? You can pick up those skills and those behaviors doing a little volunteer lead job like that. That will then be incredibly valuable for when you do become like an official team leader, a manager, etc. And actually, you can probably do a good job talking about those behaviors on things like personal statements.
Thank you very much, Matt. Well, that's us on the hour, so I think time to wrap up what's been a highly informative session. We've had really good feedback coming in through the chat. I hope everyone found that really engaging, and it's very helpful to you in your journeys going forward. As mentioned at the start, this is webinar 2 in a 3-part series about applying for jobs within the civil service. So the next one we have is on Wednesday, the 4th of February. It's at 10 AM again. If people are free to join, we'll send around a link afterwards in the chat. The third webinar is the human aspect of applying for jobs, handling rejection and understanding the recruiter's perspective. So if that's of interest to you, that'll also be running same time next week. Like I mentioned, the webinar was recorded, and we've got a transcript run for that, so we'll send that round to everybody after the meeting. Thank you so much for all your questions we've received. Apologies we didn't have time to get around to absolutely all of those, but really good things you asked there. So thanks so much again to Matt and Shona for your time today. Greatly appreciated. And on that note, I wish everybody a really good rest of your day.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Shona. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.